for Private Temple Hours? Private Temple Hours! Private Temple Hours! Woo! I'm trying to remember more lyrics from Young Man's verse. I can't.
No, there's one lyric where he talks about
punching
he's like,
Nazis.
I don't get drink off of Listerine or something. That's the funniest one.
Punching Nazis, something oy vey. It's oh my god. But okay,
Young man, there's no need to feel down.
Scallops Hotel is the alternate persona of art rapper Milo. It's his alternate identity, his also known as his AKA. I don't know why it's his alternate persona. Maybe it's because he does all the production. I haven't found a valid reason on the internet why it's his alternate persona. But Milo, who dropped an album in 2017, Who Told You to Think, an album I was kind of on. I like some tracks on it. I thought it was a really chill album, but I thought at times it was just really pretentious. And I think Milo, his goofy rhymes that I think Trevor described him once as very kind of like almost similar to MF Doom at times, but I feel like he takes himself so seriously, unlike MF Doom, to what you think he's saying is just super stupid. Like, you don't find it like goofy stupid like MF Doom. Like,
I compared it to MF Doom is basically, I think he's really fun to listen to because he doesn't take himself seriously. He's got this ridiculous like supervillain persona. And he's up here like, look at all the clever wordplay I can make. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't care about whether it makes sense or not, but, like, it's a lot of fun. I mean, he's talking about, like, poop and rhyming, like, stupid things. But Scallops Hotel or Milo or whoever you want to call it almost comes up with this philosophical, Aristotle-like persona and who comes up with all sorts of wordplay also, but takes himself so seriously that it almost comes off as, like, pretentious. That his lyrics don't make any sense, or they're trying too hard to find meaning in something that doesn't have any meaning. Do MF Doom's lyrics have meaning? Yeah, sometimes.
yeah.
But some tracks are about absolutely nothing, and they're just fun.
But, like, MF Doom's tracks are, I'm not going to say they're surface value, but they're very surface value. Food. Very surface value subject matter. Not to say that's bad, but,
no,
like,
there's some,
he knows
there's some really
what's the
surface level things on food. Or one thing that came to mind personally for me was the Mouse and the Mask.
Yeah.
With Danger Mouse. I think that's even more surface level than food. You look at a track like El Chupa Libre or Perfect Hair, they're literally rapping
Aqua
about
Teen Hunger Force.
Aqua Teen Hunger Force is about the show Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and it's fun. There's so much just random wordplay and stupid things that like this track has nothing more to do with anything. It doesn't have any like politically charged message. It isn't about like conspiracies. It's literally about the show Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Like,
whereas Milo, you get a sense of, oh, this dumb wordplay is a serious art, when it really isn't. He takes himself way too seriously, and that's one of the reasons I had a problem with his last project, and I found it very hard to stomach at times. Even though it was super chill, which was my favorite aspect of it. I just felt like he just came off as pretentious to me, and that was my biggest issue. But here we are, 2018. He dropped under the moniker of Scallops Hotel this new EP, Sovereign Nose on Your Arrogant Face, Sovereign Nose on Our Arrogant Face, whatever. It's only like a 20-minute EP. It's listed as a mixtape from what I've been reading. I consider it like an EP. It's only like 20 minutes long. It's 11 tracks long. And I feel like this is... I have mixed feelings about it. Because I think it has a lot of positive qualities to it. But at the same time, there's also a lot of negative qualities to it. I think the production on this, Milo does a fantastic job. I think just this really lo-fi, home bedroom, hip-hop producing style is just very beautiful. Just this lo-fi beautifulness that he's able to create just out of a bunch of very simple piano samples and a bunch of very simple drum samples, I think just comes together in a really beautiful way. And I think it brings a lot of beauty to this project. What I also like about this project is Miles' rhymes. I think he's a really, really talented rapper. I think he's really proficient. But at the same time, I feel like on points on this album, he just runs out of shit to say. And at times, you listen to what his like just this random rhyme scheme, and everything he's saying is just, there's no point to it. but he's giving this kind of like the serious tone that you're supposed to be taking whatever he says serious, but in all honesty, it's really not. It's not this consistently the album. You get some more tongue-in-cheek moments on this album where you know not to really take himself seriously, but it feels like at some points in this album he just runs out of stuff to say. Like, one major gripe that I think basically holds this album to whatever rating I give it is that the fact that this is only 20 minutes long, it's listed as a mixtape, and all these tracks just kind of cut out. They just end. That's my biggest gripe with it. But here's the thing. We were talking about Francis and Lights earlier and how that album just kind of ended at points. I feel like this album, at least the production and the songwriting are good enough that I feel like it's able to make up for a lot of that. But it still doesn't. It's still there. A lot of these tracks just randomly end. There's no really, I want to say, basic songwriting to it. There's no like, there's barely any hooks on this project, which is not a bad thing. You don't need hooks, but there's no like narrative structure, I would say, throughout the entire thing. There's no, other than how a lot of the production sounds the same, there's no cohesion from track to track. Everything just kind of is just this like on its own lane. You go from one track to the next. Sometimes there's a decent transition or something like that, but most time you're just going from track to track. And I'm not going to say it makes you feel tiresome because I think a lot of the production is able to hide that, but it's still there. It's still there. Milo is just kind of putting these tracks on a whim. He's not finishing a lot of them, I feel like. He's just kind of saying what he wants to say and then just ending it and not really finishing the track. And I think that this mixtape's biggest issue. That is it's listed as a mixtape. It's only like 20-something minutes long, which maybe you can't have 20-something minute long mixtape. Again, I really love the production of this. I think it's beautiful. And I think that's the saving grace in this whole entire thing. What do you think?
Personally, I think that some of the tracks just seem really experimental and like incomplete. As far as lyricism goes, I almost think that Milo, I guess reading more into the lyrics, Milo almost uses too many metaphors for it to make any sense at all. Almost like, I mean, even in normal writing or normal poetry or prose, authors use a lot of metaphors, but they don't speak in so many metaphors that it doesn't make any sense anymore. And I think that's part of the drawback on Milo's kind of philosopher persona that he's making for himself, is that he almost goes too deep down the rabbit hole, and I don't know what he's saying anymore. I think some of the lyrics or some of the possible cleverness of the album is lost on me because I'm not 100% sure what's being talked about all the time. This is something that I think has plagued Milo in the past. He sometimes has just this lack of things to say that make any sense. And I think these things are said at the risk of sounding pretentious, as you talked about before on his last album, Who Told You to Think, released under the Milo name. If he has something to say, sometimes it can sound really pretentious and really condescending in that philosophical way. But when he doesn't have anything to say, it still comes off in that condescending philosophical way, except for this time, it doesn't mean anything. You know, it means absolutely nothing. However, the production and the beats used on here are very much so like lo-fi hip-hop and vaporwave inspired, and I really enjoyed them because it's just a very chill listen, you know?
Very chill, and
it just puts you at ease to listen to these.
On my best songs list of 2017, Sorcerer was on there, a track from Milo's last album, Who Told You to Think. The reason I like that track so much is because Milo fit over this very, very chill and tranquil beat so well. It was a very tranquil and soothing performance, and I think that's why I thought the track was so great. And I think that's what kind of makes the production on this EP so great, because Milo is just so easily able to fit over this production. I think the production's gorgeous on its own without Milo, and I think Milo is so easily able to fit on top of it with its just very chill persona.
I think so too.
But when you get to rhymes, again, I feel like he runs out of shit to say half the time and just ends the track, or what he's saying just doesn't really matter. This EP is really weird to me because there's tracks I legitimately like. Bought My Kid a High Chair, Ranked Title, Pressures, and Sedans are great tracks. I really like those tracks. But I feel like for a lot of these tracks, they're beautiful production. Milo fits over it really well, but I don't think there's really, other than just a really chill listen, which I like. I've listened to this EP a lot, but like, I don't think there's much more to that.
No, it ends up being really chill. I'm actually interested to see what else comes out from Scallops Hotel because I did read that this Sovereign Nose of Your Arrogant Face
It's
is
like a
actually
trilogy.
yeah, it's the second part of a trilogy. It starts with another mixtape EP thing, Over the Carnage Roads of Voice Prophetic. Favorite tracks on here for sure. I really enjoyed Leisure, A Method, Jaw Gems Passing in the Hotel Lobby. Temple in the Green really doesn't mean anything, but it reminds me a lot of that break in the Mad Villain song Raid between Doom and MED's verse. We're just like pain, 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 pain. That's like literally all it does the entire track. I think it's just fun, but we keep singing this one, Private Temple Hours featuring Young Man. It's such a dumb sounding track, and it has a really good beat. But the best part for me, and I've been thinking about this quite a bit, is Young Man's verse. And it's just really scatterbrained and really awkward, and he's just like not good at staying on beat or not good at like saying anything.
What I think this is?
Yes.
Okay, so Zach Woods from Silicon Valley. If any of you watch Silicon Valley, I would recommend it. It's a good show. But like, if you haven't, watch Silicon Valley. Look for Zach Woods' character. Literally, just that's Young Man. That's how Young Man acts. He's just this weird, awkward, just hype white dude. I think Young Man's verse on Private Temple Hours is so stupid. I like it as a joke. I don't think I like it outside it being a joke. Outside of just laughing at his natural charisma, just like how he screams at the end of the track.
I mean, that's just
but
my
like
favorite
I think
part.
all of his verses are just so shitty. They're just so stupid. Just like saying punching Nazis, something oy vey, and then he says like a bunch of other dumb lines. Like I think I think the worst they like kind of like just piss me off in a sense because I think it's just this persona just makes me mad just because the way he presents himself. I wouldn't say his lines are terrible or anything, but they're kind of cheesy.
I mean, Young Man comes off to be this like really cheesy, awkward guy, and he just gets more and more aggressive as his verse goes on. But when I think back on this EP, his verse is the thing that stands out the most to me because of how cheesy, and he almost comes off as like endearing to listen to because of just how dumb his verse is and just how much he's grown on me, I guess, by listening to that verse. It's a huge joke. It's horribly written. His lines are some of the corniest things of the year. Just his delivery and like he's almost making fun of that pretentious philosopher feel right under Milo's nose.
It's like
and just like gets more and more aggressive and more like metaphorical. Not to mention the end of his verse, Young Man in the building like a steel girder, and when I kill it with words, it's real murder. And then the beat just like repeats over itself. It just sounds like a machine gun. This is pretty quiet EP, but they like crank the volume up to 300% on this thing. It scared me half to death. Like I thought my speakers were gonna blow out. And then right at the end of it, Young Man
just screams.
He screams almost like a Kanye scream.
Again, it reminds me of Zach Woods from the Silicon Valley season 3 trailer.
Destroys any like world building that this EP was trying to build. Like anything cool, anything collective, anything. This is the calmest EP you will listen to the entire year. Young Man is on here and just screams, and it doesn't make any sense. It just breaks all character. Young Man is what stuck out to me the most on this entire project. Overall, I also liked Where Are We? I think that was a really chill, calm track. And speaking from a technical standpoint, I think it's probably the best track on here because it's like the longest track. It has actual verses, it has a chorus, and quite honestly, like the lyrics make more sense and tell more of a story or make more of a point than they usually do. That's not saying much because it doesn't make much of a point, but I still think that it's a good listen. Overall, it's hard to give this project like a super, super good rating because I think it's short enough for it to be like forgivable for Milo.
But at the same time, it's a mixtape, and mixtapes are supposed to be, I feel like, at least from my knowledge of things, longer than studio albums, and this is not longer than the studio album. Right. I think this is more of an EP. If it was listed as EP, I probably would have been given it a better score, but I don't view it as that.
I'm not entirely sure like what to view this as. I almost think Scallops Hotel is just like a different moniker for Milo to release more experimental things. Because I think, like, So the Flies Don't Come, released under, like, Milo's actual name, I find that to be, like, a really interesting project. But, like, some of the Scallops Hotel things are, like, pretty questionable, spotty content. wise. Where this EP delivers is pretty basic at best. I won't say that like Where Are We or Private Temple Hours are my favorite Milo / Scallops Hotel tracks ever, but they're good for what it's worth, and they're good for what the EP / mixtape is worth. One thing I really liked about this is Scallops Hotel's repeated verse. Scallops Hotel is the building.
And he had the same
it's
thing
not
with...
is in the building. It's is the building. He is the hotel.
Because I think it was either the previous Scallops Hotel album, mixtape, whatever. Basically, it's referred that Scallops Hotel is this building where a bunch of people just kind of visit. Like, he samples Doom, and the track's called something something. Doom is in the building.
Yeah.
Doom visits the building.
Doom visits the Scallops Hotel.
Yeah.
Or like Jaw Jams versus
is in the
Scallops Hotel.
Yeah.
Or walks the halls of the Scallops Hotel. I don't know. That's just like an interesting moniker. I'm excited to see where he goes from here because, like I said, like this is a really chill album. There's just not a whole lot to say. I think almost if he waits more time and gathers more things to say or works up the guts to be even more experimental, I think this could be like another interesting project. But I almost don't see it counting against him. It's not that long. It's not like a huge pivotal release. It's under an alter ego. And it really is like a pleasant, pretty dreamy listen, even if the lyrics mean absolutely nothing.
Even though this thing may not be that good, I don't think it hurts Milo in the end. I think it's more of just like a side project. In the end, I don't know what to give this as a score. I'm just gonna give it 5.5. I think that's decent. I think that's what it deserves. I really like the production of this thing. I really like Milo's flow, even though he doesn't really have that much to say, even though he's not narratively good. I think he's able to give us a very, very impactful, kind of Doom-esque, very out there flow, even though it may come off as pretentious.
Personally, I give it a 6 out of 10. It was originally a 5 out of 10, but I went back and listened to it a couple more times, and I think Young Man's verse gives it at least a half a point, just because of how funny it is.
Okay.